Hello, everyone. Welcome to DoubleDM, episode 115, I believe. But I know what this episode is going to be about. It's going to be about Murderhobos, and especially playstyle at the table, and how everyone plays their unique way, and we somehow need to accept that and find a compromise as a group to actually play the games in front of us. But first, we are here to discuss our weeks and what we've been up to this last week since last recording, since you've last heard from us. Without further ado, Niels, how are you doing today?
I'm doing quite fine, actually. My head is smoking a bit from university, but other than that, I have good feelings.
It's also smoking probably because of how hot it is outside.
Yeah, that's another thing. I feel like I finally have a plan where how I want to go about my college degree, which courses I want to take in the choices part.
Nice.
Because currently I'm doing a course on organic chemistry, and this is the field that I later want to work in anyways. So I've looked through the catalog of possible courses and found there is toxicology and biochemistry. 1, 2, 3. So toxicology and biochemistry 1 are, I think, bachelor courses, and biochemistry 2 and 3 are master courses.
Okay.
So those are the things that I, in a way later stage, want to specialize in. So, and it feels like the professor of this course has just an insane teaching style, you could say. It's amazing because he really explains everything in that much detail that is needed to understand it for now. But leaves possibilities to dive deeper if you so desire.
Okay. Interesting. I've actually been talking about this with my 2 work colleagues on Monday when we all left the office, because we're all also students at universities. And we were talking about, well, the thing that there's a big difference between having the knowledge to be a professor and also wanting to teach people this knowledge that you have.
Hell yeah.
Because you need the knowledge to be a professor. And apparently you don't need the actual qualifications of being someone that wants to teach this to be a professor. At least it feels like this sometimes. Obviously, they all had to go through some kind of courses on how to teach, but a lot of them I found went through those courses in some way like I go through some of my courses. I can't fault them for just wanting to get a passing grade so they can do what they want to do. If they want to be a teacher, they can do that, but you need to have some kind of passion to be able to teach me something at least. Because if you're just going to the lecture and 90 minutes just talking through what's in the script of your lecture, I am not going to learn anything.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you're telling me everything and I can write my notes, but I'm not going to learn anything. But there are those professors that actually want to teach you. Those professors that actually really want to give this knowledge to other people.
And I feel like the professor that I have in organic chemistry is really invested in teaching, just because it feels like he wants to have new chemists that try new things and expand the universe as we know it, to say it like that, to push the boundaries that are possible currently, to find solutions for the problems that we have in this world in ways that chemists can help. And just because of that passion or that desire to create more knowledgeable scientists, it feels like he really wants everybody to get what he's saying, and therefore explains it really, really well and understandable. And it's the same in one of my other courses where we currently talk about solar cells, how they work and why.
Do you mean solar panels or solar?
Yeah,
okay.
The photoelectrical effects and the generation of electricity through that.
Okay. No, I was just asking, right? Solar cells could also, I don't know anything about chemistry, so it could also have just been like how the sun is made up of helium, and I'm like, solar cells.
I mean, it's not that far off. It's connected. So
the sun is made up of helium, right?
Helium and hydrogen, or mostly hydrogen, then fusing to helium. But
and because that creates heat.
Exactly.
That's basically all the knowledge of chemistry I have.
Yeah, but we were talking about what type of elements can be used to create a solar panel, and the studies that go into that. And they, for a couple of years back, found a way to make a solar panel that is about 33% effective. The standard currently is 25, so that's a big fucking jump. The only problem with that is you need lead for that. Yeah, and that's the problem. So now the scientific community has to figure out how to make these things possibly without lead, or if you have to use lead, find a way so it doesn't contaminate the nature around it and the people using them. So yeah, that's a thing. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
But anyways, that's why my head is smoking, but I'm happy anyways.
Nice. That's a good feeling, I feel.
How about you?
My head is also smoking.
Perfect.
It's been a very, I don't want to say stressful week, but a week of lot of input, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
There's been input everywhere. There's been a lot of new things that's basically being drilled or pushed into my mind, and I have to make place for it. It's not most of these informations I just cannot disregard, because on Monday I started my new job, finally.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the contract for a week longer, but they said, right, take it slow, do the onboarding with the team, and then on Monday you start for real. So on Monday, I decided, since I am only student worker and not a full-time worker, because I have to complete courses and lectures, by German law, I am not allowed to work more than 20 hours a week, period. Mm-hmm. With the company I work at, I can distribute those hours however I want. For example, since Monday, I don't have anything else to do except for DDM releases. I said, why not work on Mondays for like 8 hours? So I did that. And I also knew that the other student workers that are in the team that I'm working at are also in the office on Monday. This week's Monday. Not all Mondays, but this week's Monday they were there. So I said, okay, I will also work in the office. So I went to the office, met the team. We did the weekly meeting the IT team does there. There was a new project initialized on Monday, more or less, you could say. And there was basically this, okay, why don't ask Emil to do this as well? I mean, he knows a bit about it, so why not instantly push him to a new project and give him something that he already knows and combine it with something he doesn't know so he can learn our system.
Perfect.
So that's what I've been up to the week. This new project, working with that, finding new things, getting accustomed to the structure that we use at work and stuff like that. And the fun thing is on Monday, right? The office has like, I think, 8 rooms, toilets, kitchen and storage rooms aside, there are a few offices. One of them is the boss's office. The boss of the whole office complex works there alone. And then the rest are mostly communal offices for like 4 to 5 people. And I went to one of the rooms that was empty because in the mornings on Mondays, most people actually work from home in this office, apparently. But I want to work in the office on Mondays because I think it's, first of all, rather chill and it's a good start to the week personally for me. So I went there and the other 2 student workers arrived shortly after me. They seem to have taken the same room. It appears that this room is basically for the students to work at when they work in the office. Basically, then the thing is, we closed the door and locked us more or less inside this room for 4 people as 3 people working on our stuff. Cool. Then like 4 hours went by, 1 p.m. The other people in the office knocked on the door. Do you guys want to join us for a break, for a communal break, to team build a bit, to talk a bit about our weekends and stuff like that?
Get to know each other and stuff, yeah.
Every other door in this office is basically open all time, except for the door where the 3 IT people have locked themselves in the room to work on their computers.
Obviously, it's the IT guys.
We didn't join them for the team building, by the way. We didn't even take our breaks. That was the first work day. And then the other 2 days I worked from home here, sitting at my desk in my home laptop and was typing away and doing stuff. And yeah, I've been having good progress so far.
Perfect. Sounds like a good first week.
So after that big thing, one quick fire round basically. What were your TTRPG sessions like this week, Niels?
They were pretty fucking amazing, to be honest. We had in one of my campaigns where this week I didn't got to DM, so I was just a player this week.
Probably good because you've been having to figure a lot of stuff out as you write.
Yes. Very good. there has been a lot, but in the one session we fought a sea drake kind of creature, a big sea snake, and chopped it up rather quickly. Good. It wasn't even close, this fight, not at all. And the other session that I had was Curse of Strahd, where you were also a player in.
Yes.
Which was amazing, but I was fucking tired, so I wasn't as active as I would have liked. I was
so fucking... I spaced out like for 30 minutes because my brain just decided to shut down.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, fun thing, before that, I actually decided that this would exactly be my character's trauma response to what just happened in this game.
Perfect.
So I was like, subconsciously made the decision, this is right for him to just shut his brain off for 30 minutes, so let's do it as well. Then I went like,
Method acting. Haha.
And then I really just stared at my screen for 30 minutes because I just couldn't comprehend what was happening. It was impossible for my brain to take in any further information and input.
Yeah.
But again, it was in character, which
it was
great.
still fun.
It was in character because whatever happened before, I don't want to say anything too much about it because otherwise Niels might pick up on a few things, would have triggered some kind of response from him in that direction.
Okay. Now I'm going to brood over that. But did you have any other TTRPG sessions other than the Curse of Strahd one?
Oh, yeah, I did. I had a Tyranny of Dragons session on Tuesday. The same day you probably had your other session.
Correct.
And my players also had a very, very, very close fight against an adult white dragon, a Rauthathor, the old white death.
This one, yeah.
And holy shit, I buffed him a bit because in the lore of the Forgotten Realms, it says that he once raided Luskan, a town in the north of the Forgotten Realms, and acquired a lot of magic items. And I'm like, sure, dragons hoard magic items because they're valuable. But why wouldn't any dragon be smart enough to just use magic items? So he had Magic Items 1, which gave him evasion as a feature.
Oh, fucking hell, okay.
Paired with legendary resistance.
Oh, damn.
He
so
basically
get out of jail free cards.
From a fireball, correct.
Amazing.
He had basically eaten a cloak of greater invisibility, so he could cast the greater invisibility spell for 1 minute.
Oh fuck.
And he also had a gem of seeing embedded in his skull, which allowed him to counter other invisibility spells.
Amazing.
And then he as a dragon, because Fizban's Treasury of Dragons introduced spell casting rules for dragons.
Okay.
He also was a spellcaster.
Of course.
And this fight was one of the closest things my players ever had. And at the end, they really told me, fuck, I feared we were TPKing. Because none of them had more than 8 HP left. I think they have combined through all 4 characters have 2 spell slots left. And they have a sorcerer that could have smoked up meta magic points 2 spell slots. But she didn't have any more spell slots or meta magic points. There are 2 spell slots in the entire party left.
Fuck. Okay.
They only have 1 feature left, and that is the one of the fighter had because he never failed a saving throw. So he didn't have to use Indomitable feature at any time.
But these are the fights, man. These are the fights.
And they just beat the dragon before it could flee because it was also on like 20, it was at like 16 HP, and through a Hail Mary play, the warlock misty stepped towards the dragon and tried to kill him with 2 strikes with his rapier. And he just barely did it. If he didn't, he would have gotten a legendary action, killed him with his wing attack, and then would have been able to fly to the location where he wanted to go so he could flee.
Wow. So, okay. Amazing.
It could not have been closer, period.
Nerve-wracking shit. Love it.
The players took a combined level of 300 damage. My dragon had 230 HP, and it took exactly 231 damage. So
perfect.
I'm just gonna leave it at that. That was the fight. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So, and with that, I feel like it's time that we jump into our episode on Murderhobos, why murderhoboing isn't bad, or at least you shouldn't exactly always see it as bad, and playstyle differences, and working as a group towards a common denominator to play the game. We will hear you after our break. Hey listener, how are you enjoying the show so far? Tell us about it in whatever way you see fit. Go to our social media pages and add us or DM us about your favorite episode of the show. We would love to hear from you on what impact our show might have had on your home games. Or you could review us on your podcast app of choice and leave us a nice message with a 5-star review. And if you want to go above and beyond, bring a friend into the fold. Tell them about our show and refer us to them so they can get a piece of the pie as well. Thank you for listening to DoubleDM and joining us on this incredible journey.
So, Amy, I've been starting up a campaign that fell on the down low, you could say, because of scheduling issues and stuff. With a group of mine that I've started playing with once I started playing TTRPGs in general. And their playstyle usually differs from the ones that I'm used to currently. They're way more violence focused, and some might call them Murderhobos. Even.
Okay.
And this is something that I wanted to talk to you about today. Something like along those lines, what even is considered a murder hobo and how can you deal with them? Or do you have to all of these things?
Okay.
So first off, how would you define you personally a murder hobo?
I knew this question was coming. I knew it was coming since we started recording, since we started talking about doing this as a topic. And I hate the question. I don't hate the person that asked the question, but the question is, it's just like, what do you think is metagaming?
Yeah.
What do you think is roleplay? All of these questions that ask for definitions of terms that have been thrown around forever. Crunch is one of the best ones as well. What is metagaming? What is crunch? What are murder hobos? These questions never get answered the same way 2 times. So if you would ask me in 1 year, what is my definition of a murder hobo? I would probably say something different than I'm about to say.
Probably even if I ask you tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that reasons, but currently, my definition of a murder hobo is someone that results to especially hardcore violence to solve every problem that doesn't have a clear-cut other way. And with that definition, I think I've already been more granular than most people ever will be about the term murder hobos.
Probably.
Because most people will say it's a group of people or it's a player that does a lot of violence and murders a lot of NPCs and monsters. Can I ask, with this definition, and I know the answer to this question or what answers I will get if I ask the question, but I want to ask you, Niels, the question, and this is a trap question. Yeah, you can just say what you think most people will answer or what you would answer. I don't give a fuck, but don't think about it too much. I just want you just go with the answer that you know I want you to say. Why is that bad? That player that results to violence and killing?
Because it shuts down all the other options. That would be my first gut instinct to say.
Yeah,
because
you can say that.
In a play of TTRPGs, there is a plethora of options you can take and a multitude of different interesting encounters that you can solve in multiple different interesting ways, and always resulting back to violence to solve nearly every single option or every single obstacle in front of you might get not as interesting as it once was, or might lose its touch for most of the table. So that's why it is bad in quotation marks.
Okay, so why do most of our monsters instantly result to combat?
Exactly. That's the thing that comes off next as a logical way, usually.
Like the thing is, before you answer further, it's we always, with metagaming as well, with murder hobos, we put the blame on players. They shouldn't do that. That's bad. But why don't these GMs look at their own definitions, their own stances on this, their own plays, their own games, and look for why that happens? Because evidently it doesn't happen at every table. Otherwise we wouldn't have the discussion, because otherwise we wouldn't have a term for it, because that would just be normal play. Murder hobos are a certain style of play that do not many people enjoy. For good reasons, don't get me wrong. I would have answered the same thing if Niels asked me the question. But oftentimes we hear people say, I have a problem with murder hobos. How can I deal with them? And as dumb as it sounds, as evil as it sounds, as antagonistic as I will sound when I say this, maybe you should look at your game first and see if you are actually enticing murder hobo activities.
Yeah, it's a good general thing. If you ask yourself, how can I deal with certain situations in game, is to look back at your own playstyle and basically look in the mirror, and maybe you find a reason why they result to that or default to that through the things that led to that moment itself. Where the things that led to the decision that they made, like in every normal day life, every decision you make is predestined by something else. It is dependent on something else, on your experiences before, everything you do. And this is a good place to start when you ask yourself how to deal with certain situations, or especially in this case, murder hobos, to look at the facts or the history of your campaign or of your playstyle or of multiple campaigns over the course of your TTRPG career, you could say, and see what happened. Look at it and basically analyze what happened and see if that thing or the things that happened entice a more violent playstyle or reinforce that playstyle once it was or once it worked before, and then tried it again and it worked every time. Why would you stop now? And this is the thing that you as a GM have to ask yourself as well. It's not always on the players, because when you present all the options or all the situations and they get away with it every fucking time and it works every fucking time, why would you fucking change it? It's like in everything, never change a running system.
But the thing is, right, and we're also not here to say that to every new GM that is coming here, you have been GMing for like 3 to 4 months now, and come to here and you have a problem with Murderhobos, and now you're here to listen to advice on how to deal with Murderhobo players. And now we've talked about like 3 to 4 minutes of it's your fault. It's not your fault. Get that out of your head. It's not your fault. It's never your fault necessarily, except when you're a jerk. But otherwise, there isn't really any blame or fault in TTRPGs, in my opinion.
We are not here to point fingers at anyone. It's just...
And you shouldn't do that as well. Like, my players are Murderhobos is you pointing fingers. It's more complex than just that simple answer. My players are Murderhobos. I don't like it. And we are here to unravel this a bit. And the first thing you can always do is reflect on yourself. Because that's the easiest. It's the hardest part, but it's the easiest to actually do. Because you don't need anyone else to do it. You don't need anything. You don't need anything to do it. You just do it. So your players are Murderhobos, at least in your opinion. So first of all, what are Murderhobos to you? Write that down. Write down a sentence. This is what a Murderhobo is for me. Now, why do I have these players? And try to answer that question in earnest. Not just find the easiest answer because my players enjoy combat, or because my players enjoy violence, or because they take the game as a meme. That's not good answers, because you're not gaining anything from them. That's a statement you make. But if you ask yourself, okay, so my campaign is in a dark world where everything is dangerous to my players and a false step could mean death to them. And your players are scared of basically everything. They're paranoid of everything. And their best guess is to grab their weapons to defend themselves in every instance, to protect themselves from dying. That is something, that is an example, be it good or bad, that tells me way more about why my players are acting the way they are. And I did that through reflecting on what I did. This is my setting, this is my world, this is my narrative, or this is our shared narrative and world. But this is what I brought to the table. So maybe this is the reason, or maybe this is part of the reason. So,
and one quick thing regarding that is that just came to mind. When you try to reevaluate or look at your own things that you've done, ask yourself 5 times the same question. Why? Just ask yourself why. You have a situation and ask why. And then it goes deeper every level. And usually, at least from my experience in being at TTRPGs or in general life, mostly after 5 whys, I have a rough understanding of the situation at hand. And then can engage with the problem itself rather than the symptoms of the problem. And that's something that you want to do when you reflect on yourself and try to analyze it, is not deal with the symptoms, but deal with the problem itself, whatever it may be, or even if it is not really a problem.
Ask yourself these 5 whys. Go deeper every time. And as soon as you have a basic and great understanding of what is actually going on, the complex reasoning behind why they are Murderhobos, or the simple reasons why they are Murderhobos, there could be very different things. It could be a lot of different reasons. But then you have that. And this step, you don't have to find the answer yet, because the answer isn't always easy to be found. But if you have an understanding, you can approach the problem in a way different way. Because what I often see online is when someone says, I have Murderhobos, what do I do? And then someone replies with, punish your players. Show them that killing every NPC they encounter is a bad thing and they will get imprisoned for it. Yes, you can do that. That's the way to do it. Do that if you think that that's the right choice. But think about it beforehand, because, okay, they killed an NPC. Now guards arrive. What makes you think your players are going to stop at killing the guards? And even if they don't kill the guards, if they get subdued and get thrown into prison, what makes you think your players will stop after prison? What makes you think your players will stop after their character dies? Because the problem doesn't necessarily lie with the character, but with the player. And again, problem just for the ease of discussion. It's not an actual problem. But that advice might help. If you think after a certain evaluation of the game, of the state, of the situation, that's the right choice. This is done, but this advice is often handed out out with way too little to no information about the actual game.
Yeah.
For example, especially newer players can tend towards murderhoboism because many different factors. One of them is the meme factor that I have found.
Yeah.
A lot of people that only know TTRPGs through memes and retellings of their friends just come to the game with an attitude of, I can do everything and I am the boss and I am cool and I'm fun and I'm just here to be cool. And if you come to a table to just be cool, killing everything doesn't sound so bad, right? Makes you pretty cool, at least in your mind. Or at least there's obviously a little bit more complexity to it. Especially newer players can tend towards murderhoboism just because this is how it's sometimes memely depicted in fiction and games, and everything features violence. Every action show features a lot of violence. Why can't I play this as an action movie, right? You can, but they come with this attitude into the game that isn't problematic at all. It's a set expectation set by the surrounding media that they've consumed about the game or the knowledge that they have. And if you're a GM, this is actually very easy to counteract because you need to manage their expectations right from the get-go. Tell them, this is not like Stranger Things predicted it. This is not like anything else you've ever seen. This is my game. I can't tell you exactly how play is gonna go because it's gonna depend a lot on your actions and certain outcomes of die rolls and whatever. But what I can tell you is that what you often see, especially in memes and jokes and retellings, is somewhat of a fantasized version that doesn't happen that often at my tables. We're not a meme. We're an actual story that we want to tell. There's no, you kill the town blacksmith to get what you want. If you threaten them, they might do what you want, but they might also call the guards on you. There's actions and reactions. I think that's actually the important part for new players, that they understand that for every action you take, there's a reaction that's going to happen. There's a change. There's an impact in the world.
Exactly, and I think this is a way better advice that should be thrown more around in the internet, rather than punish your players, is show them their actions have consequences. That doesn't necessarily mean imprison them, kill them, or whatever. Just show them that whatever they do leads to some sort of reaction.
And if what they do is bad, obviously the reaction is going to be a little bit bad.
Exactly, but it can show in different ways.
Yeah, what you need to do is make sure that these players go away from the feeling of, this is just a game for me to kill a few people and monsters without remorse. Just like a video game is also for some people like just a shooter. I just shoot people. I don't care if they're good or bad. I just want to shoot the gun I have in hand in this video game. And first of all, again, there is necessarily nothing bad about just wanting the stress relief of sweet death of an NPC, as macabre as it sounds. But if you don't want your players to be murder hobos, the first step you can always do is to just tell them, before it ever happens, is to manage expectations. Tell them that what they're gonna do is gonna take up reaction from the world. And if they do something bad, like killing, the world is gonna react in certain ways. Try to get into their heads that remorse is something that they should have for the game to be played with you. I feel that remorse is an actual very good word for this, because oftentimes the people that are murder hobos or that are described as murder hobos are just killing everything without remorse. They don't care for the lives of the NPC they murder because it's just a game to them.
Yeah.
They just want to kill stuff.
Yeah, and I think this is a hugely important thing to talk about during session 0, right? Before anything happens. Not just setting expectations, but talking about the level of immersion you want to have and all of those things. Because I think this is one thing that could tie in also into that, to preventing murder hobos, is if you talk about how little you want to be immersed in the story itself. Because if you are massively immersed in the story and invested, you build a connection between your character, and you're not just playing a stat block or some character that you don't care about. But when you're invested and immersed in the story, you build a connection to that character that you created. And you want to make the best decisions possible for that character. And just adding names to a list or crossing off names after name after name after name might not be the best thing for your character.
Yeah.
And just through that reflection of you yourself as a GM, and combination of talking to your players about how they want to deal with the whole immersion and morality thing, is something that you should talk about. Do you want your morals to be reflected by everyone or by the world itself? Or tell them, hey, whatever you do, this will be reflected back to you. Basically, the world will hold up a mirror because that's what everything does in a world, because actions and reactions.
It's always great to talk with your players about conflict resolution. How do you guys want certain conflicts to be resolved? And if all your players say combat, then that's an asked for playstyle. Your players want a lot of combat. There's nothing bad in that. Where the often ominous post, my players are murder hobos, what can I do, comes from is not from a players are actually murder hobos. These players just want combat. They want conflict resolution through violence. But meaningful violence. Not just unnecessary violence. Because the unnecessary violence, right, you get rid of that by talking to your players, talking to them that this is just not what you want to do. And yeah, there's other ways as well. One of them, for example, is if one of your players at your table, especially if only one of your players at your table is this kind of murder hobo, I just want to murder everything. And you've talked to the player and they don't seem to change their attitude towards it. Kick the fucking player, please.
Yeah.
Do not keep toxic people, and I'm gonna say it. They are toxic people. If you ask them to change, friendly, hey, can you not try to murder everything? The other guys want to talk to the shopkeeper, and I have something really cool prepared for them, but you seem to just want to murder them, so you can just steal everything from the shop. Could you please not? And they say, no, I don't care. That's the player instantly telling you they don't give a fuck about the rest of you, so don't give a fuck about them. Throw them out of the group. And in the age we are in currently, when it comes to TTRPGs being very much on the rise in entertainment and content and just generally as a hobby, with the internet making it very easily available to find new players for your group, you can just find new players. Go find a new player. And if all your players seem to be very different from you, you can find a different group that fits better to your needs and play style and wants and expectations. We will get to that a little bit later, but I just want to talk about, again, back to the conflict resolution stuff where there's going back to the murder hobos, where I think the murder hobos are basically fake murder hobos.
Yeah, this is something, an interesting thing that you touched on.
Yeah.
Because for me, I would, in my definition, however ambivalent it might be or ambiguous it may be, it is the unnecessary violence part is key for me. Because if you create as a group a fighting ring and they just bash each other's skulls in, that's not unnecessary violence. It may be unnecessary, but it's not unnecessary violence in this type of sense, because you all agree to it. But if you just want to buy a fucking sword and then bash the shopkeep's skull in without any prompt to do so, that becomes the problem in that case.
This is a fabricated example from me, and it's a little bit of an hyperbole, so don't take this with a grain of salt, but see the lesson in it. That's important. You're describing a village being attacked by a red dragon who rains hellfire down upon them. The players arrive, and their instinct is kill the dragon so it doesn't destroy the village anymore. And you were like, why did you kill the dragon? I had this whole story prepared where the dragon just wanted something someone from the village stole from him and stuff like that. No, you presented it as a dragon being an evil fucking piece of shit, killing innocent people. Every normal player will pick up arms and try to defend the village and kill the dragon. That is an instance of not necessarily miscommunication, but it's clearly not murder hobos. The players didn't instantly want to murder the dragon, but you can also not expect your players to, before every single combat or during every single combat encounter, ask, why are you doing this? Please stop. Sometimes the players go, this dragon has just killed 100 innocent people, including kids. I don't give a fuck why he did it. He needs to die. You cannot expect your players to always know what is going on in your head as a game master and play after how you want them to. This is something that we've talked about a lot. This is a core issue of player agency even. The players want their agency. They want their actions to matter. And you have the story prepared, which includes a dragon killing an entire village. And then the party needs to ask them why they did it, so they can explain something to the players so they can go on a certain quest. That sounds very obscure railroading to me.
Yeah, it is.
Because you need your players to see the dragon to attack the village. You make them see there's no way of the players not seeing the dragon attack the village. Then you expect them to go over there and inspect the situation or come to the situation. You expect expect them to talk to the dragon instead of fighting it or driving it away. And then you expect them to do what the dragon asks them to do.
Yeah.
Those are 4 big ifs. Or 3 big ifs, at least. Sometimes maybe my players, if your players divert at one point, they might not even be considered murder hobos. If your players diverted from your planned adventure one step before killing the dragon, before interacting with the dragon and saying, fuck, this dragon is attacking the village, let's hide and run away. Your players wouldn't be murder hobos anymore, now would they? So you don't have a problem with murder hobos. You have a problem with your players not doing what you want them to do. And again, this feels like I'm blaming the GM on something. I don't know your entire situation. But if you throw around accusations of your players being murder hobos, you also need to look inwards.
Yeah.
And the players are not murder hobos for killing that dragon in that instance. Even if you aren't railroading them, your players aren't murder hobos for killing that dragon in that instance. They are just engaging with what they think is in that instance the right call.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the example that you've given with the GM wanting the players to talk to that dragon, you can do that in a later stage in the game when you have interconnectivity between the players and this dragon, for example. If they know this dragon, they might go over, or the chance of them going over and talking to that dragon is way bigger than just the dragon is there, you've never seen it before, and it just rains fire. I, as a player, would just pick up my fucking sword and see what I can do to help anyone that is there.
Yeah.
And get a few pot shots at the dragon if it's close enough.
There is no let's talk it out.
Exactly.
That option has long left.
Yeah, I have a story from regarding that from one of my campaigns that I am a player in.
Okay.
And in the first couple of levels, we've met a group of wolves that, because we were hurt and blah and looked like easy prey after a big fight, circled us as you
typical wolves.
Exactly. And we fought those wolves because they were about to attack, blah, 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 all the stuff. Obviously, this wouldn't be considered murder hoboing in the general sense.
No, it wouldn't.
But one wolf acted differently than the others.
Okay.
And somehow built a mystical connection to one of the players through one of their magic items. It's a homebrew magic item between anything.
There's stuff.
Whatever the fuck, right?
There's context.
Exactly. And then I think about 8 or 9 sessions later, we encountered another pack of wolves, but our GM said, hey, you recognize the eyes. It's not the same wolves, or not the same wolf that you've had a connection with, but the eyes are very similar. And this completely changed the combat encounter, or as it was planned, the combat encounter on the head, because we now have a connection to that wolf that we can connect to our backstory, to our history as our characters, and then act according to what we as characters know. If that hadn't been the case, we would have murdered those fucking wolves. So context is very key for calling something or saying if something is murder hoboing or not. Because just killing the wolves without having this connection, not murder hoboing. Having this connection, being pointed towards that connection and reminded of that multiple times, and then just saying, yeah, fuck it, we'll do it anyways. Then it gets to the gray area, you could say.
Yeah, I would call it murder hoboing. Because for me, again, as I said, murder hoboing is not necessarily unnecessary violence, but it's an overuse of violence as a tool. If you really feel like your players are responding to every single challenge with violence. And then the thing is, as you said in the beginning, if it works, why would they stop? But also as a GM, I get that. The problem is I always feel like when people say, then just stop putting challenges in front of them that can be solved by violence. I always feel bad for the people that get that advice and then try to do it, because it feels awful and played to me personally. To put a challenge in front of my players and then shut down every one of their ideas, which might only be violence, to shut down everything because I don't want them to use violence. That feels like, once again, railroading, which is another term that I hate, but I'm going to use it in this episode because I have to, because people will understand what I mean with it. It feels like I am playing antagonistic now to them. And no GM wants to be antagonistic to their players. Even if their players are a little bit of shitty murder hobos, we still don't want them to leave the table with a feeling of, I had nothing to do today. Everything felt like you didn't want me to do anything. That's still bad. That's even worse than your players at least killing something and having fun doing it. And this is, again, one of these fake murder hobo things. What can lead to these fake murder hobos? You have put too many challenges in front of your players that only required violence, and now they try violence because it worked so far. If you diversify yourself at the beginning of your game with a lot of different types of challenges that can be maybe solved by violence, but also do not have to be solved by violence at all, right from the get-go, your players are going to have a way bigger repertoire of things they can do or things they will think about in doing to solve your problems. And this doesn't mean that you have to put a riddle in front of your players. But the less, this is the advice for it, in my opinion. The less direct your challenges are, the more open the possibilities for your players. If you put a monster in front of your players, you describe an evil, vile monster, what do you think is gonna happen?
Exactly.
But if you just put a dragon in front of them, you don't describe the dragon as vengeful, evil, or whatever. You don't give the dragon any negative, frightening, fearful traits. You just put a dragon. It's sitting there, doing nothing, waiting for something. I would say I'm way less inclined to fight that dragon than when a dragon it's perching on top of this tree, looking down on you, fletching its teeth with a big toothy grin, eyes of a predator looking at you.
Presentation.
And when you present your challenges, being more ambiguous, being more open, don't defining correct answers to the challenges in the first place is also gonna keep you from the disappointment when your players take a different path. If you have a challenge that is roleplay focused and your players take combat, you're gonna feel bad because you've prepped all this time for the roleplay focused. You've prepared all this cool roleplay stuff and your players are never gonna engage with it now. If you didn't prep the roleplay stuff, and I know this is a scary thought to tell you don't prep the roleplay thing behind it, just put your players in front of the challenge and see what happens. And then why did you need the roleplay stuff? You want your players to get information. Why does the information have to be presented in roleplay? Can't your players just find a note after combat? And I think murder hoboing generally comes from this point of view that you have something very cool prepared and your players take the most easy basic option to engage with the stuff and don't get to see the stuff that you have prepared that way. And you're frustrated that all the stuff you prepared is gone and useless and your players don't get to engage with the game in a different way. If you would have just not cared for how they solve your challenge, you wouldn't have that frustration in the first place, I feel. But again, I am once again sounding like I'm blaming the GM. I am not. I've had all of these problems myself and I've come to the conclusion that I am at right now. Again, you as a GM are allowed to take every step that you deem correct to stop your players from murder hoboing. And the best thing you can actively do is kick someone if they're shit. Talk to your players about that you don't want this to go the way they are making it to be, and then trying to diversify a bit. Trying to be a little bit more open. But okay, even if you are more open, even if your players get a lot of different challenges, even if you've talked to your players and they still result to violence, why can that be, Niels? Why can they still result to violence every time, even though you've done everything we've said so far in this episode?
To put it bluntly, because they just have a different playstyle from you. Just putting it out there, it's not a bad thing, because the playstyle that you have, only you have that specific playstyle.
Yeah.
Because you cultivated that playstyle throughout your campaigns,
throughout your play,
being player, whatever, right? Yeah. Or even if you just start being a new GM or a new player, you don't have a clear defined playstyle yet, but the things that you've done so far, add to that. Figure out what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. And when you tried something to solve something just through talking in character and it didn't work, you might feel more inclined to lean towards combat or to just murder everything. And however these playstyles formed, you have your own specific playstyle, and your group or your table, it's as a whole, should overlap as much as possible. If you see it as a Venn diagram, every player is circle, and as much the more overlap you have, the more or the better it is usually. And sometimes the playstyles just don't overlap that much, and then you have too little space that just works for everyone, and then it just gets into the same groove every fucking time. Then it's just not the right table for you.
Because you as the GM are very roleplay heavy. You have all this cool roleplay stuff. You have all this cool emotional, dramatic stuff prepared, and your players are just combat-focused people. They like combat. They want to fight stuff. It comes back to this question: what can I do if my players are murder hobos? You can only do so much, and this is a hard truth that I think a lot of people miss when answering this question. You cannot solve every problem as a GM. Stop thinking that you're almighty at the table or in the game. You cannot solve every problem, and that's something I had to learn myself. That's something everyone has to learn. What I mean with that is that at some point you will have to give stuff out of your hand for the game.
Yeah.
You present your players with this open world. I'm just gonna say it. I think the person is fine with it. A friend of ours is a Curse of Strahd GM. Mm-hmm. They have had a table. Recently messaged them several times about that they would like more combat, or that they enjoy that they have different playstyles, blah 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 blah. And they did the expectation management at the beginning in session 0. They told the players explicitly what is gonna happen. They create awesome stuff for their players. But the players have a different playstyle. Mm-hmm. And that is something you cannot control. And you should never try to tell these people that their playstyle is wrong or try to change it in any way. And the same goes for when you're a player and you have a GM that has a different playstyle than you. Mm-hmm. Don't tell them, please change your playstyle for us. That's not gonna work. Compromises are important, yes. But there's a difference between, hey GM, could we maybe get a little bit of a combat opportunity? And I think the word opportunity here is very important. It's not, can we get a little bit of combat? Because that is basically asking, hey GM, can you put a werewolf in front of me that fights me? That's not fun. No. Nah. But putting an opportunity for a combat in that you can then as a group again circumvent either by roleplay or by combat or by whatever, but you still get to decide is better.
That's way better.
It's more engaging. But that's also the problem, because you as a GM, you want your players to role play a lot and you put opportunities in front of them. And obviously you have to push these opportunities to your players and then present the opportunities, and then your players have the right to choose. And if they choose something that you're not inclined with, I'm gonna say it the way it is. You have to deal with that. Otherwise, you shouldn't have put the option in front of them. Yeah. You have to put the option in front of them because that is what TTRPGs are about, in my opinion. Making these choices, giving agency, playing together, working together. And as a GM, that means you put a problem in front of your players and your players get to choose how to engage with that problem. And if you don't like how they engage with that problem, that's a you problem. Yeah. And again, this sounds mean. I don't want to be mean. It's not meant that you're a bad GM because you put a problem in front of your players and your players engage with the problem in the wrong way. I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong or bad. It's just something you have to deal with. It's a truth.
Yeah, it's something that you have to think about. Yeah. Because then you can ask yourself, is this even the right table for me? Yeah. Because exactly. If it's one player, you can talk to your group as a whole and say, hey, we all enjoy that, but you don't. How about we just don't play with you? It may sound rude, but it truly isn't, because it isn't something personal. Yeah. It's just something, hey, we all enjoy this, but you don't. Why do you have to stick around then? Yeah. Because you don't enjoy it and you're ruining the fun of everyone else through that. If it's the whole table, just say, hey, okay, nothing personal. It's just not working. And then go play with another group.
Yeah. And please be adults about it. Don't try to sugarcoat it in, your playstyle is great. It's amazing. I love playing with you, but also I don't. Like, what the fuck is that? Yeah. Just say, I've enjoyed the time I have. However, I have a few things that I think are missing personally from this table for me. I don't think you want to change your playstyle that much to accommodate me, my questions, or my wants, my needs. And I don't think that I can change my playstyle enough to accommodate your GM needs. We're not that compatible. I'm sorry. We tried. I had fun every time. Yes. But it seems that we are just not compatible. Yeah. It sounds like a breakup in a relationship, and it kind of is, but it is very light. It's not that you loved each other. It's not that you have spent all these important moments together in your life. It's a fucking hobby game we're playing. Treat it like that. As soon as you're not having fun anymore, it has no point of you being there anymore. Yeah. You're only doing this for fun. If you're not having fun, first of all, you're dragging everyone else down. You're dragging yourself down, and it would benefit for everyone, you and everyone else at the table, if you were open and said, no. But you have to say no. Because the other thing you could do is ghost the group, not show up anymore, or neglect them all. And that is even worse than the sugarcoating of, oh, you're so great as a GM. I loved playing with you. You're doing so great. But also I have these certain needs. Could we get more combat? I thought we get more combat, right? You're literally lying in that instance. It's lying because the GM told you in this instant, in their session 0, I am going to be very roleplay heavy. There's going gonna be some combats, but you have to take the chance on them. If you don't, I'm not gonna force you to any combat. And then messaging your GM 2 months later saying, I thought we get more combats.
Yeah.
You had a lot of opportunities to get that combat. And all the time when the opportunity presented itself, which is what we're here for roleplay. We are here for exactly that. For those opportunities. When I'm sitting at the table as a player, I want these opportunities to get to make my own decisions. I get to decide if I engage with combat or not. The GM gets to decide how many opportunities they present for combat. And if they don't present many, but you want combat, well, you have to take the ones you get.
Yeah, and if you don't, you can't complain that you didn't.
Yeah.
It's just be a fucking adult about it.
Yeah.
I mean...
And also treat everyone else like an adult.
Yeah, exactly. Just talk in a normal way and really talk and not just saying things.
Yeah.
Talk about the things that if you notice something that is not necessarily just regarding playstyle, but in general, if you notice something that isn't working for some reason, address it.
Yeah.
May it being the descriptions, the playstyle, the environment, the ways the world reacts to you, whatever the fuck it is, talk to everyone and address it. Because if you don't, you can't change it. And it's like in every lecture I am, the professor says, if you have a question, ask it because I guarantee you at least 5 other people have the same question.
Yeah, safe.
It's basically the same thing for TTRPGs, but on a smaller scale. If you have some sort of issue with something, address it because somebody else might have the same issue.
Yeah, or might have noticed the same thing, or even better, someone else might have noticed something different.
Exactly.
And you starting a talk gives them the opportunity to talk as well.
Address the things that annoy you or are not the thing for you in a calm and normal manner. You don't have to be the most eloquent person.
Yeah.
Fuck no. Just don't be a dick. That's the biggest and most important advice I can give you in life and in TTRPGs.
Yeah.
Don't be a fucking dick.
Yeah.
Just be a normal person.
Yeah.
And then everything will fall into place.
Yeah. But please, one thing that I want to say to players when they ask for something from their GM, please don't be ordering something like you're at a restaurant. Could I have the combat, please? Or can I get a side of extra combat with my roleplay, please? No. What you can do is ask, strike up a conversation. Hey, I think I would need more combat to enjoy this game to the fullest. Is that possible? That way you're not saying to your GM, I need more combat to even have fun at your tables, which in the first instance you might not have meant, but it can very much be interpreted in that way. Be compassionate. Understand that your GM has a certain playstyle as well and is not your fucking puppet.
And it's not a computer program that runs the NPCs the way they are meant to be, or the way they were written, because
you're all players at the table.
I don't care how good your notes are. I don't fucking care. I would say my notes are pretty good.
I have a very specific thing for this. I recently was stuck in a train in Berlin on the tracks with no station in sight because there was some kind of problem with the tracks ahead and we had to stay there for like 20 minutes. Right next to me was standing one of the train personnel with their orange high-vis vests, and they had a pin on their vest that says, please remember, I am a human too. If they have to get that fucking pin, there's something wrong already. And I can only imagine how much this person got yelled at in their job, in their 10, 15 years of service already, that they have to wear that pin. The same goes for GMs. We are friends at a table playing a game. Treat it like that. Treat it like a friendship. And in a friendship, you might be inclined to be a little bit more ordering, like in a restaurant. Hey, Niels, I need more combats to enjoy your TTRPGs. Could that be the case?
And the last part is the important thing.
Exactly.
The last part is, it's not I need this or I leave. It's I want this. Can we?
Yeah. And
is
then
there a way? This is the way.
it invites conversation.
Exactly.
Niels, you can now say, well, I thought I gave you guys enough combat opportunities, but apparently I did not. Or maybe I need to present the ones that I'd give you in a different light so you guys can. And then Niels can realize, because the thing is, Niels also wants us to have fun.
Yeah.
And if Niels gives us combat opportunities and we just do not see them, that I have now given Niels a clear signal that I might not be seeing the combat opportunities, the combat he presents to me.
Yeah, because problems can have different solutions.
Yeah.
Either by just throwing more combat at you for that example, or making the ones that I throw at you more visible. Basically throwing the fucking orange high-vis vest on these combat encounters.
One thing that I think as a last final advice, to get this on the same page, to get the playstyles on the same page of everyone in a group, because not everyone might have already played together. Talk a bit about a certain play example. You don't have to actually play through a complete play example, but talk with everyone about specific play. You as a GM can start. Okay, so it's just as a little exercise. So, okay, you guys are invited to a noble's mansion. You go there, you get put into a waiting room and wait for 30 minutes. What do you do in those 30 minutes? And then the players get to answer. And then you make it basically as a very abstract form of actually playing the game to then just talk a bit about like 20, 30 minutes to see about how everyone would engage with certain points, and then ask them, why do you think you should do that? Not why especially not why your character does this, or not, but why do you do this? Why do you engage with the game this way? Why do you always go looking around in the room to see if there's something? Well, because this and stuff like that, right? Talk a bit about this so everyone gets to showcase how they want to enjoy the game, because there is no wrong way to play the game. And you always need to remember that there is no wrong way to play the game. There's only a wrong time or a wrong place to play the game your way. That is the wrong table with the wrong group.
Yeah.
And that even doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that the compatibility is low and it just doesn't work. But if you in session 0 talk about playstyles and maybe find compromises for this, right? Okay, so there's a group of angry villagers in front of their village not wanting to let you in. Would you guys ever fight them? And if one of your players says, yeah, sure, if they don't let me in, I want to get in, I will make my way through. And the rest says, we would never fight them. They done nothing wrong. They are probably scared of us. We would find a way to make them not scared. Then you can say, okay, so there's a split here. One of you would definitely fight and the others would definitely not fight. Let's talk about this. And that way you mitigate this problem right from the get-go.
Yeah. Because this example is just the players giving everyone else at the table, including the other players, because this is also important, gives them pointers on how they would react to certain situations. And then you can, from that, extrapolate whatever or how they might react in certain situations.
Indeed.
And depending on the order of in what order the players react to, then you can say, yeah, if I see them doing that, I would do this and that, and all you can adjust. Everyone can adjust to fit or to have the most overlap in the Venn diagram, basically, to make the most fun out of the table that you have.
Yeah. So this is how you can deal with Murderhobos, or even more generalized with different playstyles, how you can find playstyles at your table, and how you can make compromises so you can actually so you can actually play with your friends that might have different playstyles.
Exactly.
So I think with that, we're finished.
So thank you all for listening, and hear you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of DoubleDM. It appears you liked this one. What we had to say and our advice helped you. Why not show us how we helped you in a rating, or even write a review detailing us how we helped? You can do this on the platform that you are listening on right now. It's just a few clicks, doesn't take long, and helps us out. It gets us out there and our advice into more ears of more people. Thanks again for listening and joining us on this amazing journey. Have a great day, and hear you on the next one. Bye-bye.